Rocky, okay. Yeah, I watched the rest of the video and I like it. You're right, it doesn't matter. So what if they come from some troubled background? It doesn't matter. So what even if they haven't got over the troubles? Wouldn't matter in terms of, it's not anything bad about them. We all have our crosses to bear. And as you say, I've read studies that indicate that over half the people in the U.S. have diagnosable mental issues, that they're functional with. Most of those people in that over half group, they manage to make it. Well, they have them, and I assume that applies to me. I think we all kind of have them. It's our activities going on, and we might manage how to handle them ourselves, but it doesn't mean we don't have them. So it isn't really a big deal. But it does say some things, like if there's a high incidence of sexual abuse in the childhood of strippers, then they maybe people that have gone to stripping, maybe that's them overpowering. I don't know, maybe that's them having good reactions. Not always, but it could be in an individual case a good reaction, it could be a bad reaction. But the thing is, I don't want to have an industry, since this industry and their clientele has hang-ups, and there's all these hang-ups around it, I don't want to have this industry be set up to keep oppressing those women. And I think it does. It's like, oh, but look how they get paid. Hey, getting paid well ain't the only issue with depression. Often you're paid well specifically to be maltreated. You're like, well, that's okay because I got money. Depends. It depends. So I was thinking of ideas like this, and I just thought this up. It's not a great idea, but when we're talking about, let's just adopt the Nevada model. Well, as far as I know, Nevada is the paternalistic model plus some social responsibility. So that's not that awesome. Maybe better than nothing. If you're sitting there going, well, we got to make it legal. How do we do it? Okay, fine. But what about this? What about the only way to run a brothel, the only person that can own, the only entity that can own a brothel is a union of prostitutes. Brothels have to be self-owned. That way the prostitutes are less likely to be oppressed and continually exploited emotionally, materially, or any other way, because they'll be in control, and they'll have that will, because everybody wants to point at me and say, just leave it up to their self. Cashify is even going, if someone wants to be a slave, leave it up to themselves. And then he uses bondage slaves as though that's a real slave. And you can leave as if that's a real slave. And they're saying you should just let somebody have their own responsibility of their life. You can't tell them what's good for them. Okay. I'm just telling what kind of economic arrangements are okay in an economy at large. Like real slavery, not okay. All right. So I'm not trying to say I know better than the prostitutes. It's more like this idea. I like this idea. Make brothels have to be employee-owned so that you can for sure tell me that it's in their hands, because I don't believe the sex industry is in the hands of female sex workers, and you can point to this female executive and this power structure here and there, but I don't believe the survey of that industry shows that a lot of empowerment. And you can blind yourself and say getting a lot of money is empowerment, but there's other people getting even more money. So how about that part? How much does the strip club owner make? So yeah, I would like models like this that take into account that yes, there is an organic thing. And the women, the only good way to interpret, in my view, there are other good ways that I acknowledge they're really good, but the good way that I see, to acknowledge what the strip club from the point of view of the strippers would be if they really are creating it and having empowered in it. They really, it's their activity, and they're the ones profiting from it. And I think I could, it's not automatically a problem. Most of the problem with these sorts of things is the culture, and the culture could be changed. Nevada's about legalizing the current culture and maybe cleaning it up a little bit. But you'll see it spills over the edges, and the people that don't want the cleaned up version, there's still all kinds of unregulated prostitution in the wild in Nevada. I'd more like a change like this. Some change like this, empower the women. The women know know the situation. If it was if it was the legal way to do prostitution, then you know. I want something like that. That's why the psychological histories of all people involved matter, because the social structure that you use to regulate that area should be based on those emotional realities. Now the emotional realities are changing, so as you legalize it and the emotional realities change, you could change the regulation. But I think right now that's my concern. So I mean, this, even though I just thought it up, I mean, maybe somebody can tear a big hole in it, but I like that idea. I would feel a lot more confident about legalizing prostitution if brothels had to be uh, employee owned. The strip clubs too.